With generative AI reshaping cybersecurity, what are the key opportunities and challenges in terms of automation, threat detection, and regulatory considerations? We speak with two Filipino cybersecurity experts working in global consulting firms. With us now for more, Mafi Caringal, Managing Director, Security Lead at Accenture Technology Centers in the Philippines, and Ana Marie Pabellon, Country Assurance Leader at consulting firm Deloitte, Philippines. So good to see you both, Mafi and Ana. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for inviting us over.
It looks like a reunion for you both, because the last time that we've seen each other was at the Cybersecurity conference. How did that go? It happened in early March. Mafi.
I think it's a venue for us to be able to share what we know in this space, and it's also good to showcase that women leaders are there in cybersecurity.
Yeah, at least we're represented there. We usually see our companions in the industry. It's very small, so we see each other a lot. And it's good that the number of Filipina cybersecurity practitioners are actually growing, Cathy. Maybe during that time, it's just the two of us.
I know. For me, it's few and far between, because when I received the flyer, it was just the two of you.
Yeah.
And the rest of the faces were gentlemen. Nothing wrong with that. But it would have been better if we probably saw a 50-50 ratio.
Right.
But as you said, it's changing.
It's changing.
So there are a lot more participants.
Yeah, and it's growing. Maybe in the field of cybersecurity, it's a little bit slower, but in the field of IT, it's slowly catching up.
Why is that the case? Is it fear? Is it the lack of knowledge, or maybe the pay? I mean, there are differing studies here I'm basing this on, but there seems to be like an apprehension to get into cybersecurity, but not IT. How come?
Well, I think historically, even in the IT, specifically when you talk about infrastructure operations, right, it was also men's work. But, just recently, I mean, in Accenture, for example, and even here in the Philippines, we are 50-50. So, and, in cybersecurity, we're a little bit behind, 42%, but I mean, it's really about education, exposure, and really telling them how cool it is to be in cyber, right?
So, for me, I think if you look at it, it's sometimes fear that you might not fit in that world of cybersecurity, because there's a lot of men there. There is a bias against women that we're not capable of doing those kinds of technical stuff. But I think really it starts in education. It starts in education, like training or convincing or awareness of our girls, the girls in their early age, that STEM subjects or cybersecurity or even technology is a field that anybody can take. So there's less people there, less ladies, less girls taking up that course or that path. That's why the supply of people of eventually going to technology or cybersecurity in the workplace is a little bit lower than the boys or the men.
Where do you think the bias lies? Because it's fewer in cybersecurity, but a lot more in IT. What is it that makes women fear cyber?
If I can comment, maybe the fear is not very specific to women, but really because this is a new field, right? I mean, it's not literally new because it's been here for a decade. I mean, I've been here in in the last 10 years, but just the last, I would say, 5 years, 6 years, right, where cyber has become a sexy field, and maybe because this is new, so a lot of people still have questions like, what is it there? What do they really do, right? And even I myself, when I was starting, I couldn't even explain to my mom, like, oh, what do you do? I don't know. Cyber police. but I guess it's really how the cybersecurity as a field is evolving as well. And now there's a lot more news about it, education materials that both men and women can actually join. So we don't really single out cyber talent. There's a big gap around the globe, but yeah, we welcome everybody to make sure that we continue to grow our cyber talents.
That big gap around the globe in a Deloitte study that I saw, 20 to 25% of cybersecurity experts are women. So the balance of about 75, 80 still men.
Still men.
Knowing that and knowing where you are now, how did you overcome your fears, if you did? Not really knowing much about the field and yet getting into it.
It's actually, you have to do your work. It's a really difficult field to be in. So you have to be on your toes. You really need to be updated with a lot of things. Sometimes, maybe a lot of times, I have to tell a lot of my women cybersecurity companions as well, that sometimes you might have to work double the effort of the men in that space, really, to prove yourselves. But that's the case right now. But for me, how we actually survive and thrive in this profession is you really have to do the work. You really have to do the work. Maybe the strength of men as well in networking as well is something that a lot of women in the tech space need to be able to have. Networking, knowing people as well, and being able to communicate and convince people is something that you would need in that profession.
Do you agree that that could be the main crux of this whole gender gap issue?
Yes, and in addition to that, you just need to have the right proficiency, at least based on my own experience. I don't know, programmer, law. It's a mixed bag of everything. I was also doing platform, SAP. So why cyber, right? But now that I'm in this field, I realize that all those backgrounds or experiences or learnings that I had in the past made me to where I am today. But definitely, as Anna pointed out, right, you need to be on top of it because there's so many regulations, the advancements of innovation technology. It's really making sure that you're equipped and you know what's happening around the cyber world.
I wanted to pick up on networking because a journalist, she's a cyber journalist in London, Charlie Osborne, she said that part of the reason too is, in her words, a failure to encourage the next generation to promote cybersecurity as an attractive career path. Might we be lacking in mentorship? Or might it be not a fair question because there's really not a lot of women to speak with in cyber still, 5 years on?
You know what? That is a good point. So why there's a lot of men in cybersecurity is because there's mentorship there. Mentorship in terms of men mentoring men. If there will be more women actually mentoring women in the field of cybersecurity, they would have an idea that there is really a path for women in cybersecurity. And it is possible. It may be difficult. It is a new field, but it is possible. And it is a nice field to be in, and it's a hot field to be in.
Why is it nice?
We are the living example.
Why is it nice? Because I've come to know cybersecurity as in the context of online child abuse at the height of the pandemic, working towards preventing that. To me, that is cybersecurity. And that's not a pretty field to go to, but it is an advocacy. It becomes
it is
one
not,
because it deals with our children.
Right. It is not nice in such a way because you're battling bad people. You're bad people or attackers or adversaries. But it is something that is really fulfilling that you're doing it to protect the children. You're doing it to protect the users, the customers as well, when it comes to cybersecurity, and even the citizens of the Philippines as well. So it is not a very attractive profession because it's really very, very stressful. Stressful because you're dealing with a lot of attackers day in, day out. But it is very fulfilling. It's a very fulfilling profession that you know that you were able to protect the kids from those kinds of bad or criminal activities, and you are able to protect also the citizens of the Philippines from attacks.
Sounds like a 24/7 phone ringing
Yes.
off the hook
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of a job.
Yes.
So you
It
pick up the
is,
phone
it is,
at
yeah.
12 midnight or past midnight.
Yes, or weekends, or where you're on holiday, you need to jump into a war room, but it makes the adrenaline pump up, and it's it always good to to help, whether that's our clients, our own team, our organization. To me, cyber is really stewardship, because you're actually working to secure what we have today, protect our organizations or the individuals, the citizens, but at the same time preparing the future generation. And stewardship is also making sure that we work directly with our clients to help them flourish and really become more successful in their business. And it's really about individuals as well, enabling them. So yeah, it's really stewardship, not just for Accenture, but for the Philippines, but really for
A lot of positives going for quite a new field. But when I look at the study on the flip side, and this is a Deloitte study in October
Yep.
2024, the survey reveals 57% of women already working in cyber say they do have job security. And 53% said they had opportunities to learn on the job. And 52% said they have a strong sense of purpose. I would have thought that percentage would have been like 80, 90%, but it's 50, 54, 50, below 55%. Why do you think that is? That it's not really consensus, if you will? Because there's that other half who's also thinking more of the negatives of getting into cyber.
Because it is a journey. So before, the numbers would have been very low or lower than that. So before, the number of women are probably less than 20%. Now that we're like growing a bit, then I think in the future it will grow. It will grow. So it's a journey right now. So that's the reason why we have to invite more women in security, so that we reach that tipping point wherein it would be a norm. It would be a norm, and the access to mentorship, training, and all of those opportunities will be accessible to anybody in that field.
And the opportunities abound because we've just scratched the surface on online child protection. There's a whole lot more. Securing corporate networks, for one. There's also industrial IoT, Internet of Things. There's also industrial control system security and cybersecurity for a host of industries, from medical to defense, automotive, aviation. We could go on and
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
This is so applicable in all the industries that move and change an economy.
Yes.
Correct.
But here in the Philippines, in the emerging market context, which do you think is really the hottest?
Corporate.
Yes, I said corporate. Why is that?
Because right now, in security, one of the things that we need to protect is the flow of money, the flow of money, and also we need to put confidence in the system, wherein our subscribers, our customers, our citizens are confident to put their money on online transactions, in online services of the government or online services of different companies like banks, telcos, or consumer companies as well. So I think that's the reason why that's the focus right now. And a lot of budget is put into that one, because we want to put the confidence of the people so that they are comfortable transacting online. And there's no other way to go. Everything is going to be digitized anyway, and everything will be transacted online. So I think the companies or the private companies don't have any choice but to secure it. So that's the reason why this profession is very, very attractive. And I have a problem maintaining people because they get poached, poached every time, because it is a very in-demand profession right now.
Do you agree? It's really corporate. that drives
well, at least based
cyber
on
business here?
based on my experience, it's cross industries. At least those clients that I personally deal with are coming from the tradition, the usual suspect banks, institution, and because they have digital way of transaction or transacting. Healthcare is another one, and of course because you mentioned ICS, OT, and stuff like that. So the energy or utilities, right? And this is not just from a global context, but also here in the Philippines. So.
About that getting poached. We talk about the wages now. I mean, pay is also an issue because I'm reading that there's also a disparity between male and female cyber security experts. Is that the case here in the Philippines? Is the disparity really wide in terms of pay when it comes to female cyber security experts?
Going out, team members, right? I've seen some disparity, offers to, well, depending on the domain of cyber, offers to men and women. But coming in, joining Accenture, it's really, and I see that, right? It's very similar. If there are, differences, it's really the domain expertise and the proficiency and the skill, of course, of an individual, regardless if men or women.
Actually, for me, I'm quite happy with the development for probably consulting firms like Deloitte. The gender gap is probably being fixed right now. So it's not much of an issue. It is now very merit-based, and I'm quite actually excited as well when I also talk to my previous colleagues now in the private industries and the private companies that they do get good compensation. So I think times are changing. Some companies are actually realizing that as well, being more merit-based in terms of the pay that they give. But we're not yet probably there yet, but it is improving, and I think it will get better.
From the point of view of government, the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center just came out with a report saying it's achieved a significant milestone because the first batch of Filipino women receiving training and certification on advanced digital forensics just came through from the US-based National White Collar Crime Center. Digital forensics is more of a domain for the male cybersecurity experts. So how big of a deal is this when the government comes out with something like that to say, hey, we've got female cybersecurity experts in digital forensics?
It is big deal. I mean, just mentioning about women specifically in that field. Although in my forensics team, I probably have less women, but there's women there, so, and they're equally strong in terms of skills, so really proud of that team. It's a niche area, so
super niche area. I would have found it so interesting thinking that the job that they do is something like what CSI does. When we watch
yes,
it
into the
TV.
but within the computer world.
world.
Malware reverse engineering, trying to think, okay, how a specific attack came through, what are the impact and stuff like that. So it's really interesting.
In terms of certification, as we're already talking about it, and training, what are available on hand for those who are wanting to consider a job in cybersecurity? Is it readily available here in the Philippines, or do they have to search somewhere else?
The good thing about these kinds of certification, you can get it online. So just go to the internet, go to ISC squared, and you can get like a CISSP certification. That's the certification for security professionals. So you can take your course online, offline. There are classes that you can do. And then you can just go to a test center and just take your test there. So it is very, very accessible to anybody here in the Philippines.
And what's the path for somebody who does that? Where do they head to next? Maybe choose a path towards government or maybe private sector?
Well, I think it's, dependent on their choice, but whether that's government or that's, the private sector. So say, for example, in Accenture, we offer, you know, the opportunity to learn more cyber, regardless of the background. So, whether that's simple IT, or a programming, or coming from a specific industry, whether that's utilities, a bank, or healthcare, and you want to learn cyber, we offer a package, and we do support certifications as well. Yeah, to some extent, my personal goal, because I go to universities as well. So I help them, look at their curriculum and stuff. We teach, and we open our center for them to kind of hold it, experience it, and of course, with the hope that you join us, you join the cyber, whether that's Accenture or not, but you join the cyber community.
Speaking of that curriculum, how do we intend to scale it up? Maybe involve the Department of Education,
Yes.
given its focus on STEM.
Yes. No, but yes, but I'm glad that, at least some of the universities in the Philippines already offer cybersecurity as a major. And, while I think the last 2-3 years, it was part of their elective. So STEM, IT, or computer science, for example, and cyber is just an elective. Now, the last 2 years, they started to offer it as a major. And DepEd is very supportive. And so us from the corporate or from the industry, we'll work together with the academe and make sure that we provide them relevant inputs so that the students can learn what's best, what's up to date.
And that's something you didn't have growing up, going through
Before.
university.
Right.
There was none. And you have really interesting journeys yourselves. I mean, Anna, just looking at your CV, it's like you've jumped from one industry to another.
Right.
Very interestingly, from banking to telco before you went to consulting in Deloitte. What was that path like for a female expert as you are in cybersecurity? You didn't learn it in school, but you
definitely
engaged
didn't.
and you embraced it
Yeah.
on the job.
So believe it or not, I'm an accountant. I'm a CPA. So I graduated as a CPA in EUP Diliman. But I went to a consulting firm. And there I discovered that being a CPA gave you an advantage on how to see the flow of money. And since a lot of companies are digitized already or using systems, you're at an advantage when you are auditing those systems, because you understand the language of money, and then you probably also have an understanding of systems as well. So I also augmented myself with some courses on IT. So with IT and the business sense and the accounting knowledge, I think that put me in a very different path, but a very exciting path, because I do speak the language of technology and business. So that's the reason why I went to the path of private. So I was with a bank and then eventually with a telco. So the combination, knowing business acumen, having business acumen, knowing the flow of money, how business works and how technology works, and how all of them can break down with bad things happening, puts you in a very good position to help more companies. So that's why I'm now with Deloitte, because having gone through the journey from consulting, then bank, then telco, then now I get to help more companies manage their cybersecurity programs. Or
in contrast, Mafi, I've seen that your journey's been a full near 20 years at Accenture.
Yes.
And it's been pretty interesting as well, bouncing around different divisions. But
Yes.
did you feel that it was lateral in some way, more of a zigzag rather than a straight up to where you are now?
Regardless of role, regardless of domain, I think it was really straight up. My background is I studied math. And then because computer subjects were very limited during my my university days, so I studied computer studies. I was a COBOL programmer, so very old COBOL.
I know that yourself.
No, but it's still in demand now, right? Modernization and stuff.
Right.
So and then I was part of Singapore Telecoms. I work and live in Singapore, where I took my international law. So it's also a mixed bag. And then when I came home, I joined Accenture. And when in Accenture, I was doing SAP platform, and then business side as well, operations, our intelligent operations, and then infrastructure, and then now cyber. So it's not really a zigzag, but it's kind of related, connected, and made me where I am today.
And bringing up the numbers of females in
Yes.
cybersecurity, a development in the US and policy change with Trump scrapping diversity and inclusion policies have led both your companies to do the same and align, scrapping the diversity and inclusion goals of Accenture and of Deloitte. How do you think these changes might impact our goal to bring that gender gap between male and female a little bit narrower?
I think it's not about the percentage of women in the top position or the mix in cybersecurity or tech. It is more of acknowledging diversity, diverse ideas, so that you can serve your clients better. You can get more ideas to solve difficult problems. Because if you have only one type of view, one angle from a certain gender or a certain race or something, you would have just limited ideas on how to fix a complex problem. So I don't think whether they scrap that agenda or not. I think it is something that it needs to stay for companies to be relevant and to stay ahead, because there will be more complex problems coming in, and there will be more diverse ideas that would need to be there for you to fix it. So I don't think scrapping it would affect it, because the progressive organization would realize that it's still needed.
Do you agree with that, Mafi?
Yes, because in Accenture itself, we're very committed to making sure that we keep our promise to include everyone. So the inclusion and diversity really is fostering us, the advancement, because as Anna mentioned, right, it's really the diverse ideas. So people from, whether that's, men, women, from any backgrounds are welcome. That's how we define inclusion and diversity. It's not just about gender.
At the CyberSecPhil conference, you spoke of battling three things: fears, uncertainties, and doubts.
Yes.
Is it FUDS or FUDS? Foods.
Food. No. We call it FUDS. Yeah.
FUDS.
When I talk to the cyber professionals or practitioners, we call it foods. So what's our foods for today?
Yeah.
Well, thankfully now I know, so I wouldn't have to give them like what I wanted to eat. Very interestingly, this topic you directed to the leaders,
Yes.
male or female, in the cybersecurity world. These issues arising from the problems that we're facing, the bad actors, the threat actors. Why is this important right now? And what seems to be the problem as to why they have those fears and uncertainties and doubts? What's driving that? And how have you taught them?
Yes. So
As a sort of a workaround.
yes. I mean, there are various reasons why there would be fear. It's really fear of the unknown. If this is a space or an area that you're not familiar with, so naturally there's some fear, right? And it's good to have that little fear, so that you get on your toes, you're up to date, and exactly, you're conscious enough. Uncertainties, because this is cyber world, right? We don't know the birth of quantum AI, the innovation, All these things, the advancement, we cannot stop, right? But we just need to be on top and be ahead of the game. And therefore, it creates, doubts, right? Especially top executive C-suites. You cannot expect them to know cyber. And therefore, it's an area where us, for example, we help educate them. We help them prepare, and we tell them exactly what it is, right? Now, of course, some C suites, are not technologically and adapt, right, to to things like this. But it's in every organization. We just need to make sure that the business leaders and the IT folks or cyber leaders meet eye to eye, because it's for their advancement, for the success of the organization. It's really for them, and us here to help them and support them.
And also for the consumers, because that's the main stakeholder. If
Yeah.
we get it right in the C-suite, the business leader, IT leaders coming together and talking.
Yes.
But what do we have to fear about? I mean, the fear of the unknown. The threat actors appear to be state actors of
Mhm.
late. What are we seeing? And what should we make the public understand
Mhm.
about being safe in an era of generative AI,
Mhm. Mhm.
where it could be used for both good and bad?
Right. So generative AI is like a two-edged sword, because there's a lot of opportunities that you could do with generative AI. It could improve the way we do things. It could improve lives as well. It could improve the economy as well. But at the same time, there's another side to it that we don't know yet. What else can it do? And how do we ensure that it does the right things? Because AI right now is it's still growing, and there's a lot of things that we don't know yet in terms of AI and how it will grow and how it will behave. And that's the reason why a lot of governments right now are putting some guardrails like frameworks when developing generative AI solutions. Even companies are somehow putting in some governance policies when their employees are using generative AI. And there are standards that are put in place as well, so that companies that are, let's say, using generative AI for customers are doing it safely for customers as well.
But how can we tell whether it's generative AI enabled?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe fake news, disinformation. Do we have any telltale signs to share with the public who barely know anything about it?
You can so AI itself is weaponized, right? Adversarial AI, as an example, in the context of whether that's fake news or what, you can see it from your feed. If it's literally every second coming in, chances are it's AI. Okay, those are the practical ones I can think of. Um, you can also see if whether that's a, say, deepfake video, right? You can see the quality, the difference, and there's no like clear steps how to spot it, right? I think at the end of the day, you just need to make sure that you validate every information that are available out there in the media. You verify the source. You make sure that the source is trustworthy there, because it's all about trust,
Sure.
right? Trust, and to us, trust means traceability, right? Can you verify an information? Is the source someone that you really trust to issue such information? So
Well, our adversaries are attacking state assets, government websites of late, since the arrest of former President Duterte.
Right.
What do we do when that happens? How can we help government, perhaps, in their efforts to protect our state assets?
Maybe first is as citizens, probably as citizens, be aware as well of what are your role is to protect your own identity, your own identity. And right now, I think one of the weak points in security, it's not just government assets, it's not just the banks or telcos or companies here. I think what the citizens need to do is to be knowledgeable of no, probably what AI is, how to spot it. Like what Mafi said, you have to be able to verify first, corroborate it with other sources. If you could use fact checkers like VeriFact, Rappler's Fact Check, AFP Fact Check, so that you would see whether the news is really true, and do like look at the source document, because sometimes what happens is it is taken out of context. So those are things that citizens need to do, and then simple knowledge or awareness to spot phishing attacks. Phishing is like the email that is sent to you, or even text saying that you won the lottery, and just click it and you input your details and voila, you're hacked. So and those simple things that citizens need to know and educate themselves will somehow help protect the system as well. You won't be able to protect the grid, the national grid or the state assets with that, but at least you yourself have a role to protect your own identity as well.
It's a call to action to the voters as the midterm elections close in. Are we to expect that the frequency of the attacks might be a little bit more than usual?
Oh yeah, there would be more. And with the use of generative AI right now, so expect more of those misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is probably mistaken information, but disinformation is a deliberate falsification of something. So that's why it is important for voters or Filipinos right now to make sure that they do the due diligence to verify the information that they get. Also, in social media, Gen AI is also used. So if you see something viral, be cautious about it, because when it comes viral, because what it really plays to is the emotion of people, not the truth. So be careful when you see viral articles coming in. So it's really being educated, being able to verify as well. So there will be more of these kinds of attacks, misinformation and disinformation coming in.
But as you say, it's a double-edged sword, so it could be used for the not so good and the good. So what are we seeing down the line helping protect the voters, ourselves, from this kind of onslaught that we're to expect during the midterm elections? Gen AI being used to deflect all these adversaries.
I don't think I'm in a position to comment, because I don't know exactly what's being done as far as election preparation is concerned. But in the context of whether that's election or any organizations, as an example, we ourselves, we use heavily Gen AI because it creates efficiency, right? It creates a lot more work output being done, at a very minimal errors, as an example, right? And to the point of AI itself is weaponized, because when you look at spear phishing as an example, and yes, it touches the emotion of the people, it can create convincingly realistic lures, right, with unmatched speed. So that's the power of AI, and that's where we really look into it and make sure that it's also we're also on top of the game, because if AI continues to advance, so must we.
Yeah. So if the adversaries are using generative AI to attack, of course the defense also should be using Gen AI for the defense as well. So, for example, one is the automated phishing, the sophisticated phishing. Of course, the defense also has used technologies to be able to spot and block those kinds of attacks. Another defense that is growing is the way they monitor attacks, because the attackers are using Gen AI to make it more complex for them to actually go through the defenses of companies or government as well. So the security solutions companies as well has built generative AI in their solutions to counter those attacks. So they're learning as well the learning that the attackers are putting in. So it's two-way. So it is a race between the two, the attackers and the defenders. Hopefully the defenders don't stay behind, and else it's not a very nice picture to look at.
But could there be a possibility down the line that the AI versus AI that we're seeing will be self-generated by themselves, like the good Gen AI fighting the bad Gen AI with the human out of the loop?
There's always possibility, Cathy.
And it might be very soon, because that's
So we
where
don't have to do anything. We just let them do their thing.
of course
Gen AI
the human
needed.
is still there.
in the loop. Oh,
Yes.
okay, so that's
Human expertise
one
is
that does
is required.
get taken out of the equation is the human in the loop.
Should
And this
they
is where
still?
we get to cyber resiliency.
Mhm.
Yes, should.
Whatever the technology is, there should always be that human
Human.
in the loop.
Yeah.
That's right.
But what kind of change, though, can the human make when the technology is optimizing, getting well ahead of
Yeah.
what we know?
And that's where I think the trustworthy AI framework comes in. So when you build a generative AI or an AI solution, you have to have those principles built in, those models, those technologies, so that even if it progresses, it develops, it learns, and it optimizes itself, the general guardrails are there. It is transparent, it is fair, it is safe, it is secure, and it should be robust. So there are trustworthy frameworks which, like, and standards bodies have already released. So that's the job of humans, to make sure that the trustworthy principles are still there, so that even if the generative AI models progress, learns, and even optimize itself, and even talk to other AI solutions, at least it remains safe, secure, responsible, and transparent. So,
But what do we do when we have a president saying, let's free up AI because we want to develop AI? President Trump said this as he came back to office. Trump 2.0 represents freeing up AI, which
Mhm.
also means anything can go.
So in Accenture, we do responsible AI. So it's a framework. It's it's a principle that we abide to, and what that means really is learning and understanding what the different, whether that's AI, Gen AI, agentic AI, right, can do for us as a business, and what can it do from a cybersecurity perspective. What can it do bad, and these are trainings, learnings that we ask everybody, including myself, right, to take. So it's responsible AI, we call it. Now there's so many tools, right, different technologies, and you can choose, anyone can choose whatever they feel like is needed. But I always tell my team, and even the clients, um, zero trust, zero trust mindset, right? It's not just in every layer of your infrastructure, from endpoints to identities, or applications and networks. But there are so many regulations, frameworks that we should adapt as well. And it's there because those are guidelines, right? That one organization should follow. But at the end of these all is the human component. We need to enable them to be able to execute, because otherwise, there should be a plan to fail. I always tell the clients, you should have your plan to fail. Identify all failure points. And then you can be, because there's no bulletproof, right? It's just a question of when. But when it happens, you know exactly what to do.
We've got about 2 minutes, and I wanted to know from your views, for those who are watching us and listening to us right now, is it worth all the trouble? We've talked about the bad and the good doing cyber. How can you convince them to get into this nuanced job that means a lot for a country, for a community, for a family?
It's very exciting, trust me.
The journey it's challenging. It may be different, but it's so worth it, because you get to expand your capabilities. You discover things that you think you can't do, and you have a bigger impact to society, because you realize there are certain things that you are capable of actually doing and contributing to society. So the path is difficult, but it's definitely very, very interesting.
We'll make it easier for them.
I'm sure they'll be knocking on your doors after listening to this interview. Thank you so much for your insights. I really appreciate this.
Thank
Mafi.
you. Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you,
And
Cathy.
Anna. And catch us again next Thursday at 9 p.m. Philippine Standard Time on One News. You can also check out The Long Conversation on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And if you haven't done so, like or follow my social media pages. I'm Cathy Yang, and this is Thought Leaders.